Roth conversions can have an incredible impact on your retirement. Hundreds of thousands or even over $1 million in future tax savings is not uncommon over the lifetime of your portfolio when done correctly. The problem is that most investors don't truly understand Roth conversions, optimal timing, or the amounts to convert. Even many financial advisors have trouble calculating the potential tax savings for their clients. In this video, I'll break down exactly what you need to know and show you a live client example of how Roth conversions could impact you. Hi, my name's Rob Baccarat, certified financial planner and fiduciary. What is a Roth conversion? A Roth conversion is the process where we intentionally move funds from our pre-tax retirement accounts, like a 401k or IRA, over to a Roth IRA. The reason that we're doing this is that once the funds end up inside of a Roth IRA, the money can then grow tax-free and be withdrawn tax-free for the rest of our lives. The catch is that in between moving the money from one account to the Roth IRA, we have to pay taxes on the withdrawals. And this is where most everybody gets tripped up. They don't understand how much they should withdraw at one time or the tax implications of doing the withdrawals. Today, we're going to break that down for you. The idea of a Roth conversion is that we want to take withdrawals and pay taxes at a lower tax rate today on the pre-tax money than what we would have to do if we just waited until a later date in the future, like let's say RMDs, when the government mandates that we start taking withdrawals from these accounts. And then not only are the accounts larger, but we also have things like Social Security, pensions, real estate income, dividend investments, and things like that that are also driving our income tax brackets up higher at that point than what they would have been if we had just taken those withdrawals today. When we do this, the impact on our lifetime effective tax rate can be tremendous. Before I show you a live example with the exact details of how this could impact you, let's go over a few very important factors that need to be considered prior to doing a Roth conversion. Number one, your current income tax rate. So how much income do you already have today? Have you already started Social Security and pensions, or did maybe you retire early and you don't have that income coming in yet? Do you have a whole bunch of real estate income or any other sources of income, maybe part-time work or anything else that's already driving up your income tax bracket? The lower that your income tax bracket is today, the more attractive that Roth conversion strategies are likely going to look for you. That doesn't mean to say that if you've already started Social Security, you can't do Roth conversions. It's just something to consider. It's the very first step. If we're already in a really high tax bracket, it may not make sense for us to do Roth conversions today. We might want to wait, if we can, until we're in a lower tax bracket in the future. Number two, our cash. How much cash do we have set aside? Ideally, when we're doing Roth conversions, we don't want to have to pay the taxes due on withdrawals from the investment account itself that we're already withdrawing. It's beneficial to have separate money set aside or just available for your use to pay the taxes that are incurred from the withdrawals from the pre-tax account. So if we withdraw $100,000, we have to pay taxes on that money. It's nice and more helpful if we have cash already available to fund that tax expense. If we don't, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just more beneficial to have cash available for these reasons. Number three, Social Security income and Medicare premiums. If we're already on Social Security and we already are taking Medicare premiums, taking additional withdrawals from your retirement accounts for Roth conversions could cause taxes to be higher on your Social Security income, and it could cause your Medicare premiums to go up. Now, when we run out the projections for Roth conversions, many times it could make sense to pay slightly higher taxes on Social Security or a slightly higher Medicare premium because of the long-term benefits of doing the Roth conversions far outweigh those costs, but not always, and it's an important factor to consider when you're looking at Roth conversions. Number 4, your asset allocation. One of the factors that comes into play when we're looking at a Roth conversion strategy is how long is it going to take for us to reach our break-even point? Our break-even point being the amount of time it takes for the investment inside of the Roth IRA to recoup its pre-tax value. So we're reinvesting the money after tax. How long does it take for the investment to grow to get back to that pre-tax value? Well, if we have a really conservative investment allocation, like maybe we're invested in all bonds, it's going to take us a lot longer to reach that break-even point than if we have an equity allocation more like 70-30 or 80-20 stocks to bonds. That investment allocation would, in theory, have a higher average annual return and thus would allow our break-even point and our recoup of our taxes to come much more quickly. So your risk tolerance and how your investments are allocated is an important piece to consider. Number 5, longevity. How long do we have left to live? If you have unfortunate medical circumstances going on that you think may not allow you to live for very long, or maybe we're already 85 years old, then doing Roth conversions might not make sense because we don't have that many years to benefit from the value that a Roth IRA brings us with this tax-free growth. Whereas if we're younger and we have more like 20 or 30 years to benefit from the tax-free growth inside of a Roth IRA, the Roth conversion strategy could make more sense. And finally, charity. If you're planning to give a large chunk of your assets to charity when you pass away because you maybe don't have kids or maybe they're doing fine and it's important to you to give to charity, then Roth conversions might not make sense for you. There's no point to withdraw the funds and pay taxes on the money because if you're going to give it to charity anyways, well, then you can gift it to charity without having to pay taxes on those distributions. So if you are heavily inclined to give to charity, then that's another reason to maybe not consider Roth conversions for your retirement planning. Okay, now that we've looked at several factors that are important to consider prior to doing Roth conversions, let's take a look at a live client example. Now that we've covered several of the most important factors to consider when you're thinking about doing a Roth conversion, let's take a look at a live client example and how a Roth conversion strategy impacts that. Today, we're talking about Frank and Joanna Miller. As you can see here, Frank and Joanna Miller do have some income already from things like pensions and Social Security, but they're still in a relatively low tax bracket as it stands today. They are taking some withdrawals from their current retirement portfolios to solve for their additional income needs, but nothing too drastic. A majority of their withdrawals are likely to come later in life. When we're considering a Roth conversion strategy, what we can look at is how much we have available inside of our current tax bracket that we can fill up with withdrawals from IRAs to do our Roth conversion. And then we can look at either filling up to the 22% tax bracket or the next 24% tax bracket, or maybe even the 32% tax bracket. The more that we withdraw in a single year, the faster that we're going to be able to reinvest the money for growth. But what we need to look out for is not taking too much in a given year. And that's why we use this tool to help tell us exactly how much money we could take for a Roth conversion and still stay under a specific tax bracket. So really powerful tool that we have available to us to help clients make these decisions. So let's see how the Roth conversions can impact Frank and Joanna Miller. On the tax planning side, we can see here that if we did nothing, Frank and Joanna would have roughly $2.5 million in cumulative taxes over the course of their entire life. We can see here that right now, because of their income, they're in a relatively low tax bracket. But once their RMDs kick in at age 75, all of a sudden their income spikes way up, and so does their effective tax rate. So the taxes that they're going to have to pay on their withdrawals from retirement accounts are much higher later than life than what they would likely look like if we were starting to take some withdrawals in these early years. So let's look at the impact. If we were to consider only doing Roth conversions up to the 22% tax bracket, or 25% is what that same bracket's going to be at the beginning of 2026, unless Congress passes a new bill, we can see here that this does have quite a significant impact. Lifetime taxes with a Roth conversion strategy up to the 22% tax bracket would save Frank and Joanna roughly $800,000 in taxes over the course of their life. That's pretty good, but the other thing that we want to consider is the impact on the total investment portfolio. So when we flip over here, while we can see that the tax impact was fairly significant, over the course of their whole lives, the investment portfolio only increases by a few $100,000. A lot of this has to do with how the money is reinvested after it's put into the Roth IRA. So let's take a look at what the impact could be if we were to do up to the 24% tax bracket. So we come down here and we can see that the impact is even greater. If we were to convert up to the 24% tax bracket, which is a much higher conversion on an annual basis, but it allows us to convert their full amount from their pre-tax retirement accounts so that by the time their age of RMDs comes around, they have no money in pre-tax accounts that have to be withdrawn for RMDs. This is a pretty powerful tool when we're talking about lifetime planning. And we can see here that this projects to save them $1.3 million in estimated taxes over the course of their lifetime. You might be thinking that that sounds like a crazy number, but just take a look here. What we're doing, instead of ending up in a 28% tax bracket for the rest of our lives, like what we've shown previously if we didn't do anything, we're going to be in a high tax bracket here for the next few years, but then for the bulk of our remaining days, we're in a much lower tax bracket. And as we get out here later in life, our increase in taxes will have a lot more to do with our non-retirement investment income, things like dividends and real estate, that we have more control over versus taxes from required minimum distributions where we have no choice about how much money has to be withdrawn every year. So we can see the impact on the tax side really is tremendous. I mean, $1.3 million in estimated tax savings, that's a big deal. But let's take a look how this same thing impacts our lifetime portfolio value. And surprisingly, because Frank and Joanna Miller are being somewhat conservative with their Roth reinvestment, the lifetime impact on the portfolio isn't actually that great. So let's say, for example, that Frank and Joanna Miller are assuming a 60-40 or 50-50 type of reinvestment inside of their Roth IRA. So we're assuming for only something like a 6% rate of return over the course of their lives. Well, we know we save a bunch of money in taxes, but the end result for the portfolio is not that significant. However, if we were to be a little bit more comfortable with a slightly more aggressive portfolio and assume a growth rate of something more like 8% versus 6%, you can see how tremendous the impact on their portfolio is. This is saying an impact of roughly $3 million if they were to live till their age 95. Now, of course, we don't know exactly what returns are going to be, and we don't know exactly what tax rates are going to be. But this is an excellent example that you can use to follow along and compare to your own situation to see if a Roth conversion strategy might make sense for you. Before doing any of this on your own, I highly recommend communicate with a financial professional or at least a CPA, a tax accountant, to help you run proper projections on a Roth conversion strategy. If you have additional questions, there's a link below where we'd be happy to see how we can help. And if you haven't already, check out some of our videos like this one right here, where we go over a broader picture of retirement planning for somebody with a $2 million portfolio. Thanks very much. Have a great day.